His family was ready for a new life in a prestigious neighborhood, until an arrogant realtor pointed out their unsuitable status. Years of success and hard work hadn't shielded them from humiliating hints and closed doors. But Williams was prepared to respond with a strength no one expected, making a move that would shock even the most jaded. But let's start from the beginning. Mr. Williams and his family are successful entrepreneurs who recently decided to expand their real estate investments. They had been considering a prestigious city neighborhood for a while, one where the quality of schools and safety meet their standards. At a real estate agency, they are advised to contact Mr. Hopkins, who is said to know everything about properties in this area. The family arrives for the meeting at the agent's office, ready to discuss specific listings. Dressed in business attire, they emphasize their serious intentions. However, as soon as Mr. Hopkins sees the Williamses, his expression changes abruptly. His smile vanishes, and a look of disdain appears in his eyes. He greets them coolly, not inviting them to sit down, and begins to explain that properties in this area are intended for a certain type of client. Williams listens attentively, though he is uncomfortable with the growing tension. He notices that the agent, without asking any questions about his income or intentions, quickly steers the conversation toward vague references about the right kind of people and desired environment. Hopkins starts listing dubious requirements. He mentions social reputation, the area's traditions, and social harmony, clearly hinting that the Williams family doesn't meet these standards. After several attempts to steer the conversation back to business, Mr. Williams directly asks what specific criteria are required for purchasing a home. Hopkins, avoiding a straight answer, states that most of the properties are already reserved, leaving only a few less suitable options. He suggests they consider homes in a less prestigious neighborhood, which clearly doesn't align with the family's requirements. Offended by the hints and obvious prejudice, Mr. Williams politely thanks the agent and ends the meeting. He sees his wife and children disheartened and saddened by this unjust treatment. On the way home, Williams decides he won't let such discrimination go unnoticed and is determined to defend his family's right to a dignified life, regardless of the opinions of people like Mr. Hopkins. After returning home from the meeting with Mr. Hopkins, Mr. Williams immediately calls a family council. Together with his wife and older children, they discuss the events, analyzing each detail. They all come to the same conclusion. The meeting was not only unpleasant, but also blatantly discriminatory. Williams understands that this isn't merely a matter of disrespect toward his family, it's a systemic problem he can no longer ignore. The next day, he contacts his attorney and business partner, Mr. Harris, a man with substantial experience in investments. Williams shares his plan: to buy several properties in the neighborhood, not only to provide his family with suitable housing, but also to change the racial composition of the area, opening it up to other families who might previously have been excluded. Harris supports the idea and suggests they proceed discreetly to avoid suspicion and resistance. He proposes starting with the purchase of the most prestigious homes through intermediaries, so information about the new owners remains confidential until the transactions are complete. Together, they hire a small team of professionals, real estate agents, lawyers, and investors, who are prepared to help implement the plan. Over the following weeks, Williams and his team put the plan into action. Through intermediaries, they make offers to purchase several homes in the area, selecting the most advantageous and promising properties. All transactions are conducted without the Williamses' involvement, ensuring that Mr. Hopkins and his agency cannot connect these purchases to the family. Information about the deals is carefully concealed until all operations are finalized. Meanwhile, Mr. Hopkins notices an anomaly in the market. Several elite homes have unexpectedly changed ownership, and the buyers aren't from his client list. He's baffled as to why people have started bypassing his agency, and he begins to suspect that a major real estate operation is underway in the area. However, all his attempts to uncover who is behind the purchases come up empty. The documents on the new deals conceal the true owners. With each new acquisition, Williams feels the anticipation building for the moment when he can reveal the truth and show Mr. Hopkins that his views are outdated and harmful not only to society, but also to his own career. Once all the transactions are complete, Williams decides it's time to step out of the shadows. He organizes a press conference, openly discussing the operation he carried out and the reasons behind it. Williams describes in detail how his family faced discrimination from Mr. Hopkins and his agency, explaining that such biased views are unacceptable in modern society. Journalists are struck by the scale and determination of his actions, and the news about the acquisition of much of the elite neighborhood quickly spreads across major news outlets and social media. The story sparks a wave of public emotion. People across the country express support for the Williams family, seeing their actions as a symbol of the fight for equality. Many share their own stories of similar instances of discrimination and bias, which only amplifies the public response. Hundreds of people on social media demand an apology from the agency, stating that such behavior is intolerable. Under intense pressure, the agency where Mr. Hopkins works tries to distance itself from him, claiming that the company does not share these views. However, this doesn't help the situation. The public knows that issues like these are often systemic, and the criticism continues. Mr. Hopkins, taken off guard, tries to salvage his position and reputation. He publicly claims that his words were misinterpreted and that he was simply trying to uphold the neighborhood's traditions. But his excuses only worsen the situation. His comments further confirm the racist stereotypes embedded in his approach. At this point, Williams takes the next step. He announces that all the homes he purchased will be rented or sold to families who might previously have been denied access due to bias. His decision is met with widespread approval and support, and a number of activists begin calling for a boycott of Mr. Hopkins' agency. Public opinion turns decisively against Mr. Hopkins. His reputation is destroyed, and the agency he works with is forced to terminate his contract to avoid further damage. Having lost his job, Hopkins realizes that his own biases have led to the downfall of his career. He is left alone, watching as his former clients support the changes he had so strongly opposed. Meanwhile, the Williams family continues their work. They establish a public initiative aimed at supporting Black families who face discrimination in real estate. Their fund helps such families consult with lawyers, secure legal protection, and access fair housing opportunities. The initiative gains widespread recognition, and other investors join them, ready to support the program. At a new press event, the Williams family shares their plans to create an inclusive community. They intend to build educational centers, sports facilities, and cultural spaces accessible to all residents, regardless of race or background. This step is met with admiration and respect, as the family has not only resolved the issue on a personal level, but has also directed their efforts toward broader social change. The Williams family story becomes a symbol of the fight for equality and justice, inspiring others to take action against systemic racism. People across the country view their actions as a powerful example of how a negative experience can be transformed into a catalyst for meaningful change.